Here at last. My first party. Please, great goddess. Please, don't let me mess this up.
Augustin Valores took in another deep breath as he stared up at the entrance to the lively villa. Inside, the sounds of a wild party resounded, and it picked and stabbed at his already vibrant nerves. This was his first party, and none of the rumors or conversations Augustin had had in the preceding weeks seemed to help him calm his anxieties. However, he was here, and he had to make it count. Augustin was a young man, in his mid-20s, with short brown hair and a pair of light gray eyes. He was in fairly great shape for a man of his age and profession. His attire consisted of a fine white and red robe that stood out against his darker skin hue. The glorious capital had people of all shades, sizes, and backgrounds, and it was a wonderful place to grow up, especially since Augustin's family was in the lower echelons of the upper class. The villa he stood in front of belonged to Senator Augustin, a seasoned representative of the people, and someone Augustin had admired for quite some time. Other guests of the party were arriving as well, and many were influential people within the city of Tatasha. Augustin walked up to the front doors, where a pair of guards waited. They were dressed in dark steel armor and were armed with spears. The guards peeked at Augustin through the slits in their helmets.
Halt, citizen. This is a private party for the esteemed Senator Augustin. Speak your name.
My name is Senator Augustin Valores.
The other guard pulled out a small leather book and started flipping through the pages. After a few moments, he stopped and looked up at Augustin.
Ah, yes, here it is. You're on the list. Please enter and enjoy yourself, Senator.
One of the guards opened the front door and Augustin went inside. The sounds of the party blared into Augustin as he stepped over the threshold and through the foyer. There were already a ton of other people all around, talking and mingling with one another. As Augustin made his way through the crowd, he overheard various conversations.
I swear, if they raise my taxes again, I'm going to contract an assassin against Senator Venmeager. They have it out for us bankers, and it's ridiculous.
You know, one day I'm gonna be a senator and I'm gonna throw a way better party than this.
Sir, for the last time, we don't have an orgy room, despite what you've been told. This isn't that kind of party.
Augustin stepped out into the middle courtyard, where a large cluster of the party attendees were gathered. From across the courtyard, he saw the host of the party, the esteemed Senator Augustin. He was a tall, burly man, standing nearly 7 feet tall. Senator Augustin often indulged in the most delicious foods, and because of that, he had a large stomach. He carried it well, and he had massive and muscular thighs and arms due to his time serving in the military. Senator Augustin had long black hair that fell to his shoulders, a large flat nose, and a wide, greeting smile. Today he wore a light purple tunic that stopped at his mid-thigh and a pair of sandals. Several younger senators, although older than Augustin, were around him, engaging him in some kind of heated debate. A voice caught his attention.
Don't even think about trying to talk to our host. I've been trying to since I arrived. Those vultures have been monopolizing his presence.
Augustin regarded the speaker. A feminine guest stood beside him, also staring at Senator Augustin. She stood almost as tall as he did, and she had long red hair that fell to her shoulders. The woman's eyes were the prettiest shade of green that Augustin had ever seen. Often, the woman sneered and frowned, especially when she was emboldened about a particular topic. Tonight, she wore a pair of light brown slacks, a pair of fine brown leather boots, and a dark green long-sleeved shirt with yellow ruffles.
Ah, Senator Valores. It is pleasant to see you. Trying to gain support for your bill.
Yes, I hate the senatorial rule that imperial bills require a second senator to co-sponsor them before they can be heard by the General Assembly. Senator Augustin is a fine and reasonable man, and surely he can see the merit of my bill.
Your bill would close the wage gap between men and women, yes? That is a worthwhile endeavor. but Senator Chonkdonk is the Grand Speaker of the Senate. As he can't vote, are you hoping he will direct you to other senators who can give you support?
Yes. Hopefully he can give me insight into how to build more support for my initiatives. I recognize my recent debate against Senator Helkilo has made others shun me. No one will talk to me.
I am sorry to hear that. If it makes you feel better, I agree with the core of your arguments.
Did you? Even though you and I are rivals.
I do believe you're the one who declared me your rival when we clashed during our first Senate session.
I suppose I did. Will you also seek his guidance on getting some of your educational reforms passed?
I would like to ask him for counsel on that, yes. Whereas you are well known among the senators, I am afraid I have not made enough recognition for myself yet.
Don't be so sure. Others have been watching us, weighing us, and trying to figure out how to maneuver us to dance to their plots. Be wary, my rival. The interests of others are tightening around us.
Senator Wagnaris gave one last look toward the senator, and then moved off into the crowd. Augustin started moving closer to where Senator Chonkdonk loomed, but a man stepped in front of him to bar his path. The man was taller than Augustin, and had short, dark brown hair, a groomed goatee, and a pair of dark brown eyes. He wore a light blue and gold tunic, with a sort of matching robe coat as well.
Ah, young Senator Valores. I see that you have decided to join us for this lovely party. Word of advice, stay away from that bitter shrew. Keeping company with her will surely endanger your position.
Ah, Senator Helkilo. Greetings. I will consider your advice. Thank you.
Wonderful. You know, my young friend, I have been watching you, as have several of my close friends. You have the potential to pass amazing legislation if you gain the right support. Tell me, what was it that you wanted to accomplish again?
Oh, I am trying to pass through some educational reforms that will assist the disenfranchised populations of our city. Those sort of reforms would help ensure that more children are educated.
Oh, well, that is very socialist of you. I tell you what, I would happily consider providing my support in the next senatorial session if you would pledge your support toward my upcoming bill.
Oh? And what is your bill, Senator Helkilo?
Several of my constituents would be grateful if we passed certain tax breaks for them. These constituents are select noble families who assisted me with getting into office. Now, in order to cover the lost revenue for these tax breaks, we would have to raise taxes on certain commodities.
What kind of commodities?
Commodities like produce, vegetables, milk, lard, butter, wool, and several other select items.
But that would be in direct opposition to the people I'm trying to serve.
Senator Helkilo leaned back and frowned ever so slightly.
But people like that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Do you think the poor actually votes in the senatorial elections? Do you think they would be able to keep you in power? Here is some free advice. Act in your own interests and forget everything else. If it doesn't serve your goals, then it doesn't matter.
But serving the disenfranchised people is a part of my interests.
Spoken like one of the dregs from the lower upper class. Let me put it to you like this, my friend. If you don't vote for my bill, then I will most certainly vote against yours. and I'll vote against you in future ventures you try and initiate. Consider carefully what serves your interests most.
And with that, Senator Hikilo waltzed off into the crowd. A great and icy pulsing started to fester in Augustin's stomach. Once more, he started to move through the crowd. However, someone called out to him.
Oh, there he is. Just the young man I wanted to introduce you to. Oh, Senator Valores, come here, come!
The beckoner was none other than the famous or infamous drunken senator, Senator Saverina Masturina. She was taller than he was by a couple of inches, and she had a form that was chiseled to perfection. As like Senator Chonkdodonk, Saverina Masturina served in the army. She had long blonde hair that went to her mid-back, and a pair of blue eyes. She wore a light pink dress with a pair of slits up the sides to allow for freer movements. The dress also had pockets. A large cluster of individuals were gathered around Senator Masturina, and they all appeared to be fairly tipsy. More than a few of the people beamed lusty stares at him as he stopped within the group, a mere 2 feet from Senator Masturina.
Everyone, this is the new young senator I've been telling you about. Senator Valores, these are some of my constituents. Each of these lovely people have key business ventures in the wine, alcohol, and booze industries. They can be influential for various political initiatives you might have.
A broad man and a thin woman stepped forward.
Greetings, Senator Valores. We are always looking to sponsor up-and-coming senators in their careers. In return for some light consideration for requests. My name is Wootish, and I own a series of fine distilleries in the city.
And my name is Lima. I own many distribution warehouses spread throughout the Empire. Would you like to be sponsored?
Augustin opened his mouth to speak.
Of course he would. I mean, who couldn't do with a little more wealth, am I right? Oh, tell him about what you want to build. Tell him!
We would like to receive some Senate support on being sanctioned to build another brewery for our businesses. It would create more jobs and provide more fun for the masses. Who can argue with that?
However, we would like to ask for some small rebates and tax credits on some of our ventures. It would ease the burden of providing new opportunities to your city's people.
I'm going to introduce a new ordinance that allows them a 25% tax credit on all their raw materials and a 15% decrease in payroll taxes. Say you'll vote yes on my bill, Senator Valores. Please?
That is a significant tax credit. I will consider it.
Both Wootish and Lima frowned, but Senator Masturina pointed at him and grinned wildly.
I see what you're trying to do. Well played, Valores. You're learning quicker than I thought you'd be learning.
You see what I'm trying to do?
Yes, because I am a very smart senator too. Listen, my friends. Valores here is trying to pass some kind of, educational reforms for the children or something like that. What can we do to help him?
Well, I can contribute, let's say 10% of all my sales for the next 3 years to be donated to whatever fund you're building to pass that legislation.
And I will reimburse 25% of the resources that you spend on supplies and on salaries of the teachers that may get employed from these initiatives.
And I will vote positively on your bills so long as you vote yes on mine, okay? Does that sweeten the deal?
That does indeed. Okay. If you all can commit to that, then I will support your requests.
toast to another new brewery.
Augustin shared a drink with them, and then moved away trying to find Senator Chonkdodonk. However, the large senator was nowhere to be seen. For 10 minutes, Augustin wandered around the party, searching for the host, but to no avail. An older voice called out to him.
You seem to be lost, young senator. Looking for our host, are you?
Augustin turned his attention to the older person standing beside a pillar. They had to have been in their 70s, with thin white hair on their head, a pair of faded brown eyes, and many, many wrinkles on their face. The person actually stood a little hunched and used a dark wooden, crooked cane. They wore an olive green tunic that went halfway to their thighs, and a pair of worn leather sandals.
Oh, Senator Flagar! I am surprised to see you here.
And why is that? I'll have you know I've been coming to these parties since before your father caught sight of your mother. Although they were far more interesting back when I was your age.
Oh? How were they more interesting?
Why, back then, there was a greater sense of urgency with passing legislation that would leave a legacy. In order to be voted for consecutive terms back then, you actually had to be doing something with your power. When I was your age, I had already introduced 3 bills that had long-lasting impacts on the economic growth of the city. Not only that, there were far more orgies at these kinds of parties. Not that I can do anything in those gatherings now.
Wait, that sort of thing really happened? I thought those were just rumors and false stories to inflate the grandeur of serving the Senate.
Really happen? Young man, they happen in this day and age. It's just not as in the open as it used to be. Don't you doubt, at this very party there is an orgy going on. I suppose that's where our host is headed. I do believe I saw him going outside to talk to more constituents, but Senator Chonkdodonk does have a back garden with a massive standalone suite. If you do not wish to engage in the orgy, I suggest you try and catch him before he makes it to that suite.
Oh, I did need his advice on something. I should go see him.
Advice? What troubles you, young man?
Well, I wanted to ask him about who I may approach for political connections. I'm trying to pass a legislation for educational reform, and I will definitely need more support to accomplish what I intend to.
I like you, young man. You are different from many of these other so-called senators.
I am? How so?
Take, for example, Senators Heculo and Mestelina. I saw you talking to them tonight. They act on their own self-interests. They operate on the notion of whatever gives them the most power, wealth, and influence. Neither of them could care less if it hurts people, so long as they benefit. You, on the other hand, actively seek to make the city better, even if it means tackling policies and legislation that many would find undesirable.
But we are elected to serve the people.
Most newbies like you think and say that, but they're quickly seduced into the darker, more enticing side of being a senator. You've been a senator for a year, yes? And you have maintained your sense of duty. Most others are corrupted within their first 7 or 8 months. Senator Wagneris is just like you, although she is having a harder time of it.
Yes. She's having extreme trouble trying to find another co-sponsor for the bills she wants to introduce to the Senate.
Oh, is she? I recall she voted to support my most recent bill. As did you.
Yes. It was a shame it did not pass. Providing more affordable healthcare is a worthwhile pursuit.
It is indeed. As is closing the gender wage gap and providing more affordable education to the poorer masses. I tell you what, young man, would you do me a favor? If you see Senator Wagneris again, have her come talk to me. I will be her co-sponsor.
You will?
Why, yes, of course. I will also support your educational reforms, so long as you pledge to support my healthcare policies. Do we have a deal?
Yes, that sounds like a fine deal.
Wonderful. And for now, we are political friends. Take heed, young man. This is something I learned over my long career of serving as a senator. There are no permanent friends or permanent enemies, only permanent interests. Today we are friends. Tomorrow we could oppose one another. You must always determine what your interests are, and then figure out how to capitalize on them. Now go, before you miss our host.
Thank you, Senator Flagar.
Augustin made his way out to the back garden, but it was quiet and empty. At the far end of the garden was a lone building, with lights in the interior.
You've already missed our host. Unless you wish to leap into an orgy. Ugh.
Augustin turned around and noticed Senator Wagnaris leaning against the wall beside the door.
Were you able to speak to him?
I was, and he offered no advice on who might support me on my efforts.
I'm sorry, Wagnaris. I wish I could help you. I really do. But unfortunately, I have so many competing interests right now.
Ugh. Perhaps I am not meant for this.
Actually, I have a message for you from Senator Flagar.
Senator Flagar? The old person senator?
Yes, I was speaking to them about your plight, and they have agreed to be your co-sponsor.
Senator Wagnaris stepped off of the wall and approached Augustin.
You spoke to another senator on my behalf?
It wasn't quite like that. They brought you up, and I mentioned it when they did. Senator Flagar likes you, and says that we both are different from most senators. They said you should go speak to them. I just got done speaking with them. They're by the column, on the left side of the villa.
Thank you so much. I will go see them now.
Senator Wagnaris moved to go inside, but she stopped in the doorway.
Thank you for what you did. You have my support on your educational reforms.
And I will support you on your wage gap bills. Maybe we could also help one another against Senator Heckelo. I may be making an enemy of him later.
Oh, that man. What did you do?
He asked me to support some horrid tax credit he wanted to enact, as well as taxes on commodities that would affect the poor. He said if I didn't vote his way, he would vote against all my policies.
He has been opposing all of mine as well. So what do you propose to do, Senator Valores?
Maybe we can support one another and protect each other against his machinations as best we can, so long as it is in each of our best interests to do so.
Spoken like a true senator. But you are correct in your way of thinking. These are the rules of the game we play. Very well, as long as our interests align, you and I can be allies. Good night, Senator Valores.
Senator Wagnaris moved inside and left Augustin alone beneath a starry sky. He beamed one look across the garden to the suite and chuckled.
I don't believe I'm ready to jump into anything like that.
After one last chuckle, Augustin moved back inside to the party.